The woman who came to return my lost wallet 20 years later also returned the life my parents stole from me. When I was 8 years old, I lost my little blue wallet at a train station. It had $5 inside, a photo of my parents, and a note my mother had written, "No matter what happens, we'll always be a family." My father laughed when I cried over it. "It's only a wallet." But I wasn't crying over the money. I was crying because that note was the only handwritten thing my mother had ever given me. 20 years passed. I forgot about the wallet. I didn't forget about my childhood. My parents weren't cruel. They were distant. Nothing I did was ever enough. When I graduated college, they skipped the ceremony because my younger brother had a football game. When I bought my first apartment, they said, "Your brother will probably buy a bigger one." Eventually, I stopped trying to earn their approval. At 30, I owned a successful furniture restoration business. I loved bringing broken things back to life. People joked it suited my personality. Then one rainy Tuesday, an elderly woman walked into my workshop carrying a faded blue wallet. "I think this belongs to you," I laughed. "It can't." She placed it on the table, the worn leather, the missing zipper, even the little dinosaur sticker I'd put on it. It was mine, inside. The $5 bill was still there, so was my mother's note. I looked up in disbelief. "How?" The woman smiled sadly. "I found it at the train station 20 years ago. I wanted to return it, but your family had already moved." I kept searching for 20 years. I couldn't believe someone would do that. Then she said something stranger. "I recognized your surname in the newspaper last week." That's how she'd finally found me. I thanked her over and over. As she prepared to leave, she hesitated. There was one more thing inside the wallet. I didn't think it mattered back then. She handed me a tiny folded piece of paper. It wasn't my mother's handwriting. It belonged to someone else. "If you're reading this, I couldn't tell your parents the truth. You're adopted." I stared at the words, certain it had to be some kind of joke. The woman quietly explained. "When I found the wallet, that note had slipped into the lining. I never opened it until years later while trying to identify you. I've carried the guilt of reading it ever since." I confronted my parents that evening. At first, they denied everything, until I placed the note on the table. My mother started crying. My father simply closed his eyes. The truth came out slowly. I had been adopted at 18 months. My biological mother had died shortly after giving birth. My adoptive parents had always intended to tell me, but every year, they convinced themselves to wait one more year. Eventually, the secret became too heavy to reveal. Then came the part I never expected. My younger brother already knew. He discovered the adoption papers years earlier. He kept the secret because our parents begged him to. He hugged me and said, "You've always been my brother." Nothing changes that. For weeks, I was angry, not because I was adopted, because everyone else had been trusted with the truth before I was. Months later, I visited the elderly woman again. I asked why she never threw the wallet away. She smiled. "Some things don't belong to the people who find them. They belong to the people still searching for them." That sentence changed me. Sometimes we think we're looking for answers, when really, we're looking for ourselves. If that woman had given up, I'd never have known who I truly was, and I'd still be wondering why I always felt like I never quite fit into my own family. If you discovered at 30 that you had been adopted and your entire family knew except you, could you forgive them, or would the lie be too big to overcome?